watching Fox 10 Phoenix now.
Begin this morning at 7 o'clock with a Fox 10 News alert. A police investigation continues this morning in Scottsdale.
Yeah, Danielle Miller joins us live near Granite Reef and McDonald with more on this. Danielle, what can you tell us?
Good morning. Well, this hours-long investigation continuing at this hour. You guys can take a look behind me here. Still a very active scene here. This is an apartment complex just off of Granite Reef and McDonald. Still here, the mobile command unit has been on scene since this happened. According to the Scottsdale Police Department, right around 12:30 this morning, that is when the call came in. It was a shooting call. They're telling us that one person has died here. They're treating this as a death investigation. We also saw an ambulance leave the scene, lights and sirens. So we're still working to get those details as to exactly what led up to this incident happening out here. Also, if there's any other people that were hurt during this. We also still don't know if there's anybody in custody at this time or if the Scottsdale Police Department has any information on that. They have told us that this is an isolated incident. The neighborhood, this nearby area, there is not a threat at this time. They are also telling us that it's still in the early stages of this investigation. So they're working to get us more information, and once they do, we'll definitely gather those details and pass them along to the audience here when we have the information once we get it. We'll send it back to you guys in the studio.
All right, Danielle, thank you. We'll see you in just a few minutes for an update on that big investigation. Phoenix police also investigating a shooting overnight. This was late last night at Cesar Chavez Park near 35th Avenue and Baseline. We're told a man was shot and rushed to the hospital with injuries considered to be life-threatening. Not clear what led up to the shooting, and we're waiting for new details on any possible suspects.
Time now 7:04. New this morning, we're learning more about an overnight crash involving a Mesa police officer. Police say the crash involved an officer, his K-9 partner, and another person. All three people are okay, so that's the good news. The investigation had closed the intersection near Higley and Brown Roads, but everything is now back open this morning.
The driver of an SUV involved in a crash in southern Arizona has now been arrested.
Yesterday's crash left 4 people on a school bus seriously hurt. Take a look at these images. This happened in Marana, which is just outside of Tucson. DPS says the collision sent the bus veering into the barrier cable, rolling onto its side. 35 students, 4 adult chaperones, and the driver were all on board the bus when this accident happened. They were from the Kingman Unified School District heading to Tucson for the Future Business Leaders of America Leadership Conference. 3 students and an adult were transported to the hospital in critical condition. The Marana Unified School District provided 2 school buses to help take the rest to the hospital as a precaution. DPS did not say why the SUV driver was detained. We're still waiting to hear back.
And Fox 10, we are now learning here new details about some train heists that are taking place in our higher elevations in northern Arizona in the Flagstaff area. And we're learning how an organized theft ring is pulling off these thefts of more than $2 million worth of Nikes.
Yeah, the description of the robbery sounds like a scene out of the Fast and Furious movie franchise. So the Department of Homeland Security has arrested 20 people over the past year. Investigations show the robbers cut the train's braking system air hose to control where and when the train is actually stopped. Eddie Hall, he's the national president of the Maine U.S. Locomotive Union, says the size of the train is a key factor in these types of heists. Listen to what he has to say.
Because of the train length, that they're now 3.5 miles long, going to take the conductor 45 minutes just to get back there where you can see what's going on.
And by the time they do, the crooks can already be long gone. So court documents show the criminals use electric saws and bolt cutters to remove cargo locks and stolen box trucks and several getaway cars to then flee the scene. Hall says the BNSF line between California and Arizona is a common target where at times trains must dramatically reduce their speeds. And if you've been in the Flagstaff area, you know they really have to slow down to go right through the middle of town.
Climb these hills with 8 or 9 miles an hour. It gives the train, these guys that are robbing the trains, they can get on these trains at those speeds. So they have a lot of opportunity now, where in the past they didn't.
Verisec CargoNet, which is the federal government's lead in the theft data, shows that the top rail lines in the U.S. and Canada had 65,000 thefts last year alone, but those are just the ones that were reported. Pretty interesting stuff, isn't it? All right, 7:32 developing this morning. Fox 10 is hearing from the man accused of killing his brother, who was a prominent Valley attorney.
Christopher Eves is accused of shooting Artie Eves several times outside of Artie's Arcadia home. This was last month, and it was quite the scene. We brought it to you as breaking news here on AZAM. Christopher is now in jail on first-degree murder and burglary charges. He agreed to a jailhouse interview with us, but then quickly left after MCSO brought him in.
Okay. No walk-in footage, please. I need to be afforded a suit of clothes for any interviews I was going to be afforded. I don't want to undertake any interviews in these clothes, so no footage.
Christopher was living with his parents, who told investigators he is suffering from mental illness. The heartbreaking part of this is that, of course, you have family members who are deeply affected by this. In court, a jury has now been seated in the murder conspiracy trial for so-called doomsday mother Lori Vallow Daybell. So
yesterday, the pool of potential jurors started at 62, but by late in the afternoon yesterday, that court found 12 jurors and 4 alternates. Daybell is charged with conspiring to kill her former husband, Charles Vallow. The trial begins on Monday. So to watch the trial and see our full coverage of the case over the years, you can just scan that QR code there on your screen. Fox 10 investigator Justin Lum and his team will have a complete wrap-up each day beginning on Monday when that trial begins.
An update here developing in Corda Valley. Man charged in the death of his wife last year takes a plea deal. Police say Anthony Majorana was driving drunk when he crashed into a lake in Goodyear near Estrella Parkway and Willis in March of 2024. His wife, Megan, she was trapped inside the car as it sank. Majorana was charged with second-degree murder but pled guilty to manslaughter. He now faces between 7 and 12 years in prison when he's sentenced next month. Well, there is a new bill signed by the governor could allow a dental assistant to clean your teeth instead of a hygienist. The measure requires dental assistants to take a training course involving 120 hours of clinical instruction with patients. They will only be allowed to work on healthy patients and must be supervised by a dentist or dental hygienist. Each patient must also be aware that they aren't receiving care from a licensed dental provider. The bill will go into effect 90 days after the legislative session ends.
Well, the Trump administration is looking into reversing a ban on certain kinds of milk for public school lunches. It's part of Make America Healthy Again strategy. Since 2012, both whole milk and 2% milk have been banned in public schools that participate in the National School Lunch Program. It was in an effort to cut down on obesity and saturated fat intake, but newer research suggests that dairy fat does not impact blood pressure, cholesterol, or weight in the ways previously thought.
Yeah, whole milk has had this recent surge with families. So in Health Watch, the next time you choose to have a meal could positively or negatively impact your brain power. Researchers at the Stevens Institute of Technology studied the test-taking abilities of 4,600 young people in India. They found those who took a test less than an hour after their last meal performed worse than students who tested more than an hour after eating. So letting that food settle. Of course, researchers recommend trying to plan your meal around your mental responsibilities throughout your day.
Well, it's Weather Wisdom Wednesday, my favorite time of the year, and we are taking a closer look at Arizona's wildflowers. So on the left of your screen right now is what we are used to seeing, a sea of yellow during a good season. And then on the right is what things look like right now on our Arizona trails. Not exactly what we would like to see by early April. So joining us in studio here is Elizabeth Haugen. She's with Arizona Parks and Trails. Thank you so much for talking with us this morning. And I want to start by talking about the current conditions when it comes to our wildflowers, like popular spots, Picacho Peak, that folks think this time of year they want to go and see this. This is what they want to see.
Absolutely. We're used to some very colorful springs here in Arizona. We look forward to seeing those golden California poppies and blue lupins, but that is not in the cards for us this spring, unfortunately.
Yeah, so I have some graphics I think we can pop up, and we're going to talk about what the factors are and why we are not having, not even just a super bloom, but a plain old-fashioned good bloom we're not seeing. So take a look at the screen, and we have right now our wildflower watch, and unfortunately we're at the bottom of the scale. We are missing almost everything when it comes to wildflowers because it was too dry both last fall and last winter, correct?
That's right. We're in the missing most category. Absolutely. You know, we look forward to seeing some staples typically like brittle-bush. Not even those are making much of an appearance. It's just been a very dry fall and winter.
So the graphic on the screen right now is comparing this year, or really last year, November, December, and into this year, January, February's rain to what is average. And you and I were just chatting in the break, and you said this is a perfect visualization of what happened because we had great rain in March. So people think, well, there should be a good bloom going on.
I know it gave everyone hope, but you know, it was just a little too late. Really, the germination of those wildflower seeds, the critical window of time is in that late fall and winter. So we're looking for more precipitation in late October through December in order to bring some great wildflowers in the spring. I know that bit of rain in March gave everybody some hope, but yeah, it was too little too late.
So I think that probably does surprise folks. And you said you're still getting calls from people saying, well, we're holding out hope. But
yes. We get calls to the ranger station, and you know, we love that. Keep calling. We're here to help. We're here to provide real-time information. But the fact of the matter is we're just not seeing a lot of color. You know, there are some plants that are still there. Arizona's nature is so resilient. So you can look for things like ocotillo blooms with those bright red tubular shaped flowers. Some Palo Verde trees you're going to see some yellow flowers on. Maybe some ironwood with those light lavender colors. But yeah, the flowers are not there.
And I think you can be fooled because you mentioned this to me, but you might see some of the brittle brush along the roadways.
That's right.
But on our hiking trails, that's not necessarily what you're going to see this year.
Absolutely. Some of those plants do really well on the roadsides where the ground and the soil is more disturbed. But out in the desert, you know, the ground is pretty hard, so we're not seeing those flowers grow like you might see. It's a bit deceiving on the roadside.
So now we're looking at pictures of cactus bloom because that's what we can kind of hold out hope for,
yes.
right? Is that we have been seeing some precip. We've got more potentially today.
That's right.
So maybe our bloom ahead.
We like to be positive around here. There are things to look forward to. Arizona's beautiful, whether those wildflowers come or not. We do love them, but the cactus blooms are gorgeous.
Yeah.
And I think it really speaks to the Arizona desert and the beauty of our state. You know, it can be a harsh natural environment, but a beautiful one, and that's exactly what a cactus flower is.
And the cactus blooms would be maybe for the next month or two?
Yes,
or?
So look out for them in April and May. We're going to start seeing things like our saguaro cactus blooms. That's our Arizona's official state flower. We're also going to see things like barrel cactus flowers, hedgehog cactus flowers, prickly pear, my favorite, the cholla, almost the color of my
Yes,
top.
which is a gorgeous color.
Thank you.
Well, Elizabeth, thank you so much for talking with us about the wildflowers. And I always like to say that if we don't have it this year, then the hope is that by next year, maybe we can get another Super Bowl.
Absolutely. Thank you, Crystal.
Thank you so much. Guys, back to you.
Okay, quick question. Is it illegal to pick wildflowers?
Look, you can get a fine in some national parks, and we don't have our rangers out there with their binoculars, but we love to leave them for next year. That's right.
Okay, because we want to